A couple lives a happy life, and the woman prays to God every day. There is an ancient promise between a lady and a snake, and a young girl dreams of traveling between worlds. Will she continue her journey, or will she return in the end? The promise remains unbroken despite the passage of time. Let's begin our story in ancient times, in a village surrounded by green trees, where a couple led a simple life. The village was quiet and isolated from the world, where nature reigned in all its beauty. The couple lived many years full of love and harmony, but they had not been blessed with children. Every day they would return from the fields where they worked, and along the way they would exchange talks about their wishes. The wife would pray to God daily, asking for a child to fill their lives with joy. Years passed without any change, until one day everything changed. That day the couple returned late from the fields. The sun had begun to set, casting faint shadows on the path. Suddenly a snake blocked their way. It was black with its head raised and its body massive, winding around the rocks. It was unusually large. The wife froze in place, her heart racing with fear, and the husband was also stunned by the size of the snake. But he tried to remain composed, and in a moment of panic the wife spoke without realizing it. "Oh, my lord, if you bless me with a daughter, I will give her to that snake. Just remove it from our path." As soon as the wife finished speaking, the snake slowly moved away from the path, as if answering her request. It left the couple in eerie silence, and they made their way home, each lost in their thoughts. The wife didn't tell her husband what she had said, believing that her words were just a passing remark with no consequences. However, the words kept echoing in her mind, as if they were a mysterious reminder of something unnatural. Days passed, and the wife began to notice changes in her body. It wasn't long before she confirmed that she was pregnant. The news was a joyous surprise for them, as they had waited for this moment for many years. The couple felt happiness filling their lives and began preparing for the arrival of their first child. The months passed quickly, and the couple became even more excited as the time for the birth drew near. On a quiet night, the wife gave birth. A beautiful girl was born, and she became a source of indescribable happiness for the couple, filling their lives with love and joy. Her name was Layla, and she was as beautiful as the moon. Layla had thick black hair and bright eyes. As the years passed, Layla grew up to be a beloved young woman in the village. However, the happiness that the family had enjoyed was not meant to last. One day, while Layla was playing near the forest at the edge of the village, the black snake appeared once again. Layla did not feel afraid. On the contrary, she was curious about this enormous creature standing before her. The snake slithered toward her, and in a soft, unexpected voice it said to Layla, "Go back to your mother and tell her the time has come to fulfill the promise." Layla was somewhat confused, but she did not hesitate to return home and tell her mother what had happened. When the mother heard these words, her face went pale, and she froze in place. She knew exactly what the message meant. At that moment, she remembered the old promise she had made to the snake, a promise she had thought was forgotten or meaningless. She tried to dismiss the matter and convinced herself that it was just an illusion or a dream. The next day, the snake returned to Layla and said, "Tell your mother that the promise cannot be forgotten this time." Layla began to feel that something was not quite right and returned home to tell her mother what she had heard. The mother, filled with fear, realized that the snake would not stop until the promise was fulfilled. She told her husband the truth, and the husband was shocked. Anger and sorrow wrestled within him, but in the end he said, "We cannot escape this. You made a promise and we must find a solution." That night, after deep thought, the mother decided to go meet the snake herself and speak with it. She put on her clothes and left the house quietly while everyone was asleep. She walked toward the forest, and when she arrived at the spot where the snake had been, it appeared before her again. The snake spoke in a calm yet firm voice. "You made a promise, and promises cannot be ignored. The mother pleaded with the snake. "Please, I spoke those words in fear. How can I sacrifice my only daughter?" The snake replied, "The promise cannot be undone, but I will give you a chance." Then, raising its large head, it added, "I will give you a choice. Either she comes with me and lives in my world, or you let her choose, but with another condition." The mother cautiously asked, "What is this condition?" The snake answered, "You must let her choose on her own, without telling her the details of the promise or what awaits her." This challenge was greater than the mother had expected, but she had no other choice but to accept. She returned home with sorrow in her heart. How could she allow her daughter to make such a life-changing decision without knowing the truth? The next day, the mother sat with her daughter and said, "My daughter, there are two choices before you. Either you stay here with us, or you travel to another world full of strange wonders and surprises." Layla felt confused and said, "Mother, I love you both, and you know that. But I am curious about this other world, and I want to see what awaits me there." Upon hearing her daughter's words, the mother couldn't hold back her tears, but she did not reveal the truth. The following morning, the snake came to the door of the house. Layla had made her decision, and she said goodbye to her parents, saying, "Do not worry, I will go and discover this new world, and I will return soon." Then she accompanied the snake out of the village, where the snake transformed into a huge creature with wings. Layla climbed onto the creature's back, and it flew with her through the clouds to an unknown world. When Layla arrived at her destination, she found herself in a valley filled with trees and lakes. In this new world, everything seemed as though it were part of a dream or fantasy. The colors were vibrant in ways she had never seen before. The trees swayed as if welcoming her, and the birds flew in the sky, singing strange tunes. Layla was amazed by what she saw and began to feel as though she truly belonged to this magical world. The snake continued its path through the valley toward a grand palace. The palace stood majestically in the center of the valley, built from stones that shimmered like crystal with drawings of strange creatures. Layla did not know what awaited her inside the palace, but she was excited to learn more. Layla gave a sharp glance and then said in a calm voice, "Welcome to my world, Layla. I've been waiting for you for a long time." The woman's appearance surprised Layla, so she began to ask, "Why am I here, and what do you want from me?" The woman smiled gently and said to Layla, "You are here because of a promise your mother made with the serpent, but don't worry, you're not a prisoner here." Layla felt fear and worry. How could her mother have made such a promise? She hesitated and asked, "What promise did my mother make?" The woman replied, "Your mother promised to give you to the serpent if God blessed her with a child. But don't worry, you'll be here to learn and become part of something greater than you can imagine. After that, you'll have the choice to return to your family if you wish." Layla began to feel a little calmer, though doubts still filled her heart. She asked the woman, "How long do I have to stay here?" The woman answered, "You must spend 7 years in this world. During these years, you'll learn much and grow wiser. After 7 years, you'll be free to return to your family or stay here." The choice was difficult for Layla, but she felt that this new world held something important for her. It was the reason behind her curiosity, so she decided to stay and learn. As the days passed, Layla started to discover this magical place. She learned how to communicate with nature, how to listen to the trees, and understand the messages of the universe around her. She also learned the language of animals and how to speak with them, as well as how to harness the magical powers present in the world around her. There were strange creatures in this world, some friendly, others mysterious. But Layla was brave and not afraid to discover everything around her. She began to gain wisdom and knowledge she never expected, and began to understand that there were things far greater than ordinary life. The world was full of secrets that one must uncover. Over the years, Layla became a completely different creature from who she was at the start. She was no longer the young girl who left her village. She had become a wise, courageous young woman. By the end of the 7 years, the day she had been waiting for arrived. The woman said to her, "You've learned a lot, Layla. Now you are free to make your decision. Do you wish to return to your family, or would you prefer to stay here?" Layla pondered her decision deeply. She loved this world, but in the end she felt it was time to return to her family. She said to the woman, "I want to return to my family. I've missed them, and I want to be with them." The woman smiled and said, "You've made the right decision, Layla. You will carry with you everything you've learned here, and you'll never forget this experience." Layla prepared to leave, and the serpent appeared once again to take her. She said goodbye to the woman, and the serpent flew with Layla through the sky until they reached the village where she had grown up. The 7 years had passed quickly, but they had left a significant mark on her life. When she arrived at her parents' house, they were waiting at the door with hearts full of longing and love. Her mother was crying with happiness as she embraced her, while her father stood by her side with tears in his eyes. Her mother said, "Finally, you've returned to us, my daughter." Layla smiled and said, "Yes, I've returned, but I am not the same girl who left. I've learned so much and discovered things I never imagined." Layla lived with her parents after returning, but her life was no longer the same. She had become wise and strong, carrying within her the secrets of the world she had visited. The days passed, and Layla returned to her life, but everything seemed different. Her parents realized that their daughter was no longer the child who used to play near the house. She had become someone else. One day, while sitting near the river, Layla felt something strange. The air around her seemed to be speaking to her. Layla knew this feeling well, as she had felt it many times in the other world. When she turned around, she saw the black serpent once again. The serpent looked at her calmly, as if waiting for something. It said, "It's time for another journey, Layla." Layla felt her heart beat fast, but she wasn't afraid. She asked, "What do you mean?" The serpent replied, "The world you visited before was not just a station. It's part of your life. Now another journey awaits you. You must choose once more." Layla asked, "Will there be a return?" The serpent answered wisely, "The journey always ends with a return, but it changes us forever. Whether you return or not, you will always carry with you what you've learned." Layla took a deep breath and looked up at the sky. She then turned to the serpent and said, "I am ready to leave, but I will return when the time is right." The serpent smiled and began moving slowly toward the forest, waiting for Layla to follow. Layla looked one last time at her parents and then walked behind the serpent. They stopped at a dark, strange place in the forest. Layla looked at the serpent, who was watching her intently. Then the serpent said quietly, "Here, you must make your decision, Layla. Either return to your family and live a peaceful life, or cross into your new world." Layla felt hesitant, then said, "I will cross, but I will never forget where I came from." The serpent smiled as if it already knew the answer, and then disappeared into the darkness, leaving Layla to face her destiny. Layla took a step forward, and with every step she took, it felt like new doors to an undiscovered world were opening. As she crossed into the new world, Layla began to feel a shift in the atmosphere around her. When she looked up, she saw a sky full of stars and began hearing strange sounds coming from every direction. They were sounds of creatures she had never heard before. Layla moved slowly down the path, but suddenly stopped when she saw a huge tower surrounded by a glowing aura. She felt that something important awaited her at this tower, and that her real adventure had not yet begun. As Layla approached the tower, the ground beneath her feet began to tremble. The moment she reached the gate, it slowly opened, as if inviting her in. Inside, she found the walls adorned with ancient carvings of strange creatures. She began climbing the stairs, hearing whispers coming from the walls. These whispers were in an ancient language, incomprehensible to her, but Layla didn't feel afraid. Instead, the sounds filled her with curiosity and a desire to understand. Layla felt that these voices were welcoming her. When she reached the upper floor, she found a vast hall inside the tower. In the center was a large stone table surrounded by statues of strange creatures. At the end of the room, there was a large mirror that seemed like a portal to another world. She approached the mirror slowly, and when she stood before it, she did not see herself. Instead, she saw an image of her family in the village, sitting at home. But behind this image, there was a shadow of a serpent watching her family from afar. As Layla gazed at the mirror, she felt something behind her. She turned slowly and saw a tall woman standing in front of the table. The woman had silver hair cascading down her back, and she was wearing a white gown. Her eyes shone with light. The woman spoke in a calm voice. "Welcome, Layla. I've been waiting for you." Layla felt that this woman knew everything about her and her journey. And about her previous journey, Layla asked cautiously, "Who are you, and why were you waiting for me?" The woman smiled gently and said, "I am one of the guardians of this world, and you were chosen to be a part of it, to learn the secrets of the ancient world." Layla asked, "What are these secrets, and why me?" The woman answered, "You have shown courage and wisdom, and now you are at the beginning of a new journey. This tower is your gateway to learning the secrets of the universe and how to communicate with different worlds. But you must understand that the path ahead is not easy. It will be full of challenges and difficult choices, just like the decision you made to leave your village and come here." Layla took a deep breath. She felt a weight in her heart, but she had no regrets. She knew this was her path. "What should I do now?" she asked. The woman replied, "You have another choice, Layla. You can choose to begin learning the secrets of this world and become one of the few capable of traveling between worlds and knowing the secrets of the universe, or you can return to your old life, but you won't be the same as before." Layla stood before this great choice, knowing that every decision she made now would shape the course of her life. After a few moments of deep thought, Layla looked at the woman and said, "I will stay here. I want to learn, and I feel this is my destiny." The woman said, "Then prepare to discover a world you never imagined existed." The woman walked toward a stone table in the center of the room and gestured for Layla to follow. On the table were old books covered with magical symbols, as well as some strange magical tools. Everything in the room seemed to pulse with energy. The woman said in a calm voice, "Not everything can be explained with words, but it can be felt and understood through experience." Layla sat at the table, feeling a sense of anticipation inside her. The woman began explaining everything, and the following days and weeks were spent learning the magical rituals to communicate with those mysterious creatures. Layla trained for long hours, and time passed quickly without her noticing. She lived a life full of challenges, but she felt herself improving and growing stronger every day. One night, while contemplating her tower, Layla felt something strange, as if an internal call was reaching her. A mysterious voice whispered to her, and the call seemed to come from a distant place. Layla rushed to the woman to ask her about this feeling. The woman said, "You must return to your original world and visit your family." Layla thought for a moment, and in the end she decided to return to her village to check on her family. Afterward, she could return to this mysterious world to continue her journey. When she returned to the village, she found that her mother had passed away, and her father was left alone and sad. Layla realized that the journey had been long, and in it she had learned many things, but she had lost the most beautiful part of her life.